Here are some real-world network security vulnerabilities that I've encountered over my first 2 years in the IT field, and what I've done to address these vulnerabilities. Network security is something that I've noticed that people take for granted, and it's not even so much of a high-level issue where it's these overly advanced, complex configurations that need to be deployed in order to bolster network security. It's very basic things. So I'm going to share 3 of them here with you. Number 1 is default credentials. Default credentials are out-of-the-box configurations of usernames and passwords, such as combinations like admin, password, or admin and password 1, or I've even seen one out-of-the-box default credential that was more along the lines of admin and router 1 or something like that. Now, hackers know this. Hackers know the default credentials of a lot of these out-of-the-box setups, and sometimes they just brute force their way into certain devices. It's very simple to mitigate this by just simply configuring secure usernames and passwords on the devices as soon as you set the devices up. And I would notice that there's some insufficient patch management along the lines of not upgrading firmware and software, and these are devices that are years out of date, right? And it's important to update the firmware and the software on the devices to remediate any vulnerabilities that might be found or present in the current firmware. Just upgrade the firmware. Just upgrade the firmware. And it could be a little bit daunting if you're managing maybe tens or hundreds of devices, but that's why network automation is a thing. Deploy a script or use whatever automation tool that comes with those network devices to sufficiently and simultaneously upgrade all of those hundreds of devices that you manage on a regular basis. So do not take for granted upgrading the firmware on your network equipment. My next point: poor access control and network segmentation. Access control and network segmentation, they're like peanut butter and jelly. When you segment your network, meaning putting certain devices on one network segment /VLAN and putting another set of devices on another network segment /VLAN, you can control traffic across those respective VLANs, right? So for example, if you have some servers on a network segment that is public facing, you can control the traversal of the traffic back and forth across a multitude of network segments, right? So for example, if you have a network segment that is in a DMZ, for example, or if you have a device that's in the DMZ, for example, or if you have a VLAN that deals with customers that come in off the street and use your computers, you can control whether you want those computers to talk to some of your internal resources, right? Or if those computers must talk to some of your internal resources, or one or more of your internal resources, such as some sort of server to deploy GPOs or whatever the case may be on those public use machines, you can control access, right? You can create access rules if you're working on firewalls that will control whether those devices can reach those servers or other internal resources or not, right? There's a lot you can play around with when you truly understand the concept of network segmentation and deploying proper access rules. So for now, that's pretty much it. It's very basic stuff. I am positioning myself, or I have positioned myself, and I'm marketing myself now as a network security engineer because things are moving so much more quickly these days. And what's also happening is many of the roles that we're finding ourselves in as IT professionals are hybrid to some extent. So for example, in my case, I build networks, right? I've built about 9 networks so far. And again, what I explained earlier in this video is that I have deployed best practices, network security best practices, such as layer 2 security in the realm of port security, DHCP snooping, DAI. I've also segmented on layer 2 with VLANs, right? I've also deployed access rules. I've also done so many other things to ensure or try to ensure network security. And is that what a network engineer does? Yes, and maybe in some, I don't know how it's done in, different corporations and stuff like that. Maybe there's a team that designs the network, and then there's another team that actually configures and builds the network, and then maybe there's a security team that does a whole different ball game when it comes to making sure that those networks are secure. But now I'm realizing that I'm doing a lot of these things and it's all in one role, right? And I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do a lot of the security stuff. I work with VPNs a lot. I configure VPNs a lot, and DPI, SSL, so many things that I work on firewalls every single day. Every day I work on firewalls. So you're probably going to see a shift in some of the content towards more network security stuff, sprinkled in with a little bit of cybersecurity stuff as a whole. Cybersecurity is just such a big topic in general. But don't want to ramble too much. Those are 3 things that you should deploy with regard to bolstering your network security. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.